Number one would be you're not necessarily in the best space to diet. I was one of the
100.
people, over the years, it's like I coined the term, kind of earning your right to diet. So, if you think about it, right, it's like, well, if you hire a nutrition coach, again, back to that whole like, well, hey, like you're hiring a nutrition coach because you already tried dieting, it didn't work. So it's like, it's interesting because so many people think like, okay, well, I pay $200, I hire a coach. They're going to like wave this magic wand and, have some secret. It's like, dude, nah, it's like ultimately we have to be in a place to do that. I love like making the comparison of like finances when we talk about a lot of nutrition stuff. It's like if we think of our body like an ATM, we can't just be making withdrawals. We can't just be dieting, 24/7, 365. It's like we got to be putting back in the bank. And putting in the bank looks like eating at maintenance calories, eating enough, for our activity and lifestyle and the things we love doing. So it's like I would coin that as number one is like, we're not necessarily in the space to diet, right? It's like, even if we talk about if we build a house, we're going to build a foundation, right? It's like we start with concrete. We're going to start building, brick by brick. It's like,
and it needs to be a solid foundation. It can't be like on sand and sticks. Like we got to have some good, solid habits in place, right?
Sketchy ass house. It's like, but truly, right? It's like if you were going to build a house, well, it's like you got to have the foundations before you're worrying about what, decorations and what couch and, all the furniture inside. It's like, listen, like we got to start with the basics. And so it's like, again, if we're out partying all the time, if we're just, like eating whatever food we decide to 24/7, 365, it's like by having all of that kind of roped in, like, then we can, dial in, then we can get to where we're trying to go. So it's like, I think number one is it's like back to that analogy of the bank and the ATM. It's like, well, what have you been doing the past 3 months and the past 6 months and the past year? If we really look back, it's like, have you been tracking your food? Are you eating enough food for your activity and lifestyle?
Are you eating enough protein? Are you eating like whole foods most of the time? Are you consistently exercising, right? And getting movement, getting steps, things like that. Yeah.
Putting fruits and vegetables in your mouth.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's like not that it's like there's nothing wrong if we are, frequenting fast food and stuff like that on a regular basis. But it's like, those are the things we kind of need to look at is like, like start and just kind of audit. Well, hey, what does my nutrition look like? What does my exercise look like? What is my actual lifestyle? Am I going to sleep? Am I getting enough steps during the day? And so it's like, that's where nutrition coaching always starts is just with an audit. And so typically we suggest, hey, let's do 5 to 7 days. But it's like, I want you to start tracking your food. And even if the long-term game is like, hey, I don't want to track my food, totally fine. But it's like, we can't like bird box our way into this, right? It's like, we can't be in the freaking closet, with no flashlight. It's like the more data we have, the more data that we can then, the goal of all this is it's like if we can collect a lot of data and control it, well, then just like a science experiment, then we can tweak it. Then we can see what's working, what's not working, and proceed confidently. So it's like, I would start, if you're currently like, hey, new year, new me, I want to diet. It's like start by quite literally just auditing what you're currently doing. Track your macros for 5 to 7 days. My favorite food tracking app is Chronometer, which I think I actually said it wrong. I recently heard it's pronounced differently, Chronometer. I don't know. But it's my favorite tracking app. And Alex, is that still what you're using, or have you like?
I still use. I've been dabbling in Macro Factor, but also. Chronometer, whatever is what I use. My Fitness Pal is I don't love it, but
Rest in peace to like 2016 Laurie
that
had
like barcode scanner. I think for you got to pay for it now. So I mean that's trash. But
I was gonna say that's trash, and it's like man, I used to have such like a disordered relationship with the whole.
You got to keep the streak alive.
Got to keep the streak. I mean, you're keeping the streak with Duolingo, so like it's not like you do it different. Ding. But yeah, it's like, I would say track your food for 5 to 7 days. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's like, don't be trying to change things either. It's like literally just document, like, where am I at? What are
Yeah.
the averages of these? It's like most people, for the most part, it's like, well, if you ain't tracking your protein, you're probably going to be averaging like 50, 60 grams a day, or, less than 100 grams a day. So it's like, track your food for 5 to 7 days. But then also I would just keep a little notebook, keep a little Excel sheet. And I would just be tracking, hey, how many steps am I getting each day? If you don't have a Garmin or some sort of watch, it's like, keep your phone in your pocket, and same thing, your phone can actually track your steps. But it's like, how many days did I exercise this week? And is that, pretty consistent with what I've been doing? Okay, how many steps am I getting? How much sleep am I getting? But we want to basically gather like how much protein, carb, fat,
and
how much
what kind of
fiber.
foods are we eating too? Like, and again, like, yeah, we both of us are super flexible on the eating, but I mean, definitely if you think about fat loss, like, again, like, we want to be able to eat like nutrient dense foods. And, if we're, okay, like if it fits, but that's probably not going to work long term. And I think a lot of these things, like establishing really good prerequisite work, is like, so that, okay, yeah, you can lose the fat, and then ultimately later on you can maintain and keep that fat off, because it's the foundation that's going to help you maintain long term.